By Kai Havertz actually coming deep, it essentially meant that the midfield was really crowded and it dragged Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez towards the ball, and it essentially freed up Declan Rice with all that space on the left-hand side, as you can see. Pretty much because there was three midfielders in the middle for Arsenal and only two for Chelsea. They were just completely overloaded. What's up, guys? It's the Master Analyst here. Welcome back to the channel. If you're looking for unbiased and educated tactical analysis, you found the right channel. Arsenal 5, Chelsea 0. Right, let's get straight into the formations. So we've got Arsenal that have set up on the left-hand side. They've set up with a 4-3-3. David Raya, as usual. You've got Ben White at right back, Saliba at centre-back, paired up with Gabriel and Tomiyasu at left-back. A midfield three of Declan Rice, Partey and Odegaard, and a front three of Trossard, Havertz and Saka. For Chelsea, we've got a 4-2-3-1 with Petrovic in goal, Cucurella, Badiashile, Disasi and Gilchrist, who makes his first start as a Chelsea player. The two holding midfielders, we've got Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo. The three three midfielders, we've got Mudryk on the left-hand side, we've got Gallagher in the centre, Madueke on the right, and Nicholas Jackson up top. If we look at the statistics from this game, we can see that, surprisingly, Chelsea had more possession. When you actually think of it, like, that is quite surprising, considering Arsenal were at home. But if you look further down the actual stats in terms of shots, 27-7, you can see that Arsenal clearly did more when they actually had the ball. 10 shots on target to 1. But then if you look further down, you can see that the big chance is 4-3. So it does show that Chelsea did have big chances, and we'll come on to them at a later date. But then if we look at the best performers from this game, we can see that they've got Ben White at the top, which, fair play, he did have a good game. He was fantastic. He got 2 goals and a clean sheet, so there's no doubt about that. But in my opinion, Odegaard should have got the highest rating, 2 assists, and honestly, it was just superb. But yeah, we're going to look at the in and out of possession for both sides. So if we look at Arsenal actually in possession and try and sort of identify how they tried to set up in terms of how they wanted to exploit Chelsea and their weaknesses, I feel that they tried to compact the midfield and just essentially dominate it, because they knew that in terms of the actual midfield, really Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez were the only ones that they sort of had to deal with. Because of how advanced Conor Gallagher is in the press, it meant that it just left essentially 2 central midfielders for Chelsea in the midfield. So then if Kai Havertz was able to sort of drop deep to link up the play and receive the ball, it just meant that they essentially had 4 midfielders in the middle, and in my opinion, it just meant that they were just able to completely dominate the play. And it allowed Declan Rice to sort of advance further forward when Kai Havertz came deep, and the likes of Odegaard were just able to find pockets of space and essentially just dictate the game. If we look at Arsenal out of possession, they set up essentially in a 4-4-2 with Odegaard joining Kai Havertz in the press. Very rigid, very well organised, and the only time they sort of looked penetrable, that Chelsea actually able to get in behind, was essentially on the counter-attack, really. If we look at Chelsea in possession, it was quite hard, if I'm being totally honest, to sort of identify how they actually wanted to play. But on the ball, as you can see, Caicedo, some reason they wanted Mudryk to play sort of centrally. That would allow then Cucurella to play sort of as a wing-back, but it just meant that when Arsenal turned over the ball, he was so out of position, and it just essentially left Badiashile just completely exposed. Nicholas Jackson doesn't really want to be the focal point. He sort of likes to edge towards the left-hand side, and that meant that Gallagher sort of had to join him. Madueke is a very sort of a wing player, very fast, and likes to run down the byline, and obviously he likes to cut inside too, but he likes to stretch the pitch. Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo were sort of switching between themselves. They, in my opinion, they're very similar players. They both want to be that CDM that switches the play, for example, but one of them has to play advanced. So they were sort of switching, and I don't think it essentially worked at all. So yeah, I just want to actually talk about when they're actually out of possession, because that was more so the problem. They wanted to do a 4-4-2 with Conor Gallagher, as you can see here, joining in with the press. But when he went to press, it just left two central midfield players. And as I explained before, by doing so, when Arsenal are playing free in midfield, it just meant they were just completely dominated in midfield. And Mudryk doesn't want to defend either. So he was sort of leaving Cucurella completely exposed. And yeah, I don't understand why Pochettino is set up like that, to be honest with you. And then finally, I just want to look at a key player from this game. And in my opinion, that was Martin Odegaard. He's just such a beautiful player to watch when he's on the ball. His balance, his composure, his technical ability. But he just likes to get in these pockets of spaces, as you can see here, sort of either side of the box. And you just can't mark these sort of players. They just find ways to identify space and dictate the tempo. And honestly, he's such a nice player to watch. And he just completely dominated that midfield. Essentially, because of Thomas Partey just completely dominating it defensively, allowed Odegaard to get on the ball and do his thing, essentially. But yeah, we're going to look into the actual big moments from this game. Right, we've got a lot to get through, a lot of juicy talking points from this game. A lot of things happen, so let's just get straight into it. This is the first goal, Bukayo Saka. This is just a quick diagram, essentially describing what happens. By Kai Havertz actually coming deep, it essentially meant that the midfield was really crowded, and it dragged Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez towards the ball, and it essentially freed up Declan Rice with all that space on the left-hand side, as you can see. Pretty much because there was three midfielders in the middle for Arsenal and only two for Chelsea. They were just completely overloaded. At that point, Declan Rice drives forward with the ball. That Gilchrist at right back is his first start. He looks a bit nervous. Declan Rice runs at him. Doesn't really know which way he's going to go. As Gilchrist turns his back, Declan Rice plays it on the left-hand side to Trossard. Hits a shot from a really awkward angle, and it goes in at the near post. I think Petrovic should do a lot better, in my opinion, for that first goal. This is the next example. Kai Havertz gets into a really dangerous position. He was really involved in the play. He actually tries to pass it here to Declan Rice running in behind, but in my opinion, he should have shot. He's got that far post to aim for, and if he manages to just get a shot off, there's no way that Petrovic is able to actually get a hand to it. And then, obviously, a few minutes later, he's in the same situation, but what does he do? He decides to shoot, when this time, he actually probably should have passed it, because as you can see in this diagram, Trossard's making that run in behind, and he's pretty much got a tap in if he actually looks up Kai Havertz. So it's all about decision making, but as we look further ahead into the game, he does end up making the right decisions, so he could have had a hat-trick easily in this game. We've got in this situation, Madueke goes down the byline. He's got a lot of pace, and he's a decent player, but obviously you can tell by his attitude. That penalty situation, he needs to work on his attitude. He does a ball to the back post. Cucurella, in my opinion, should sense the opportunity and run further forward to the back post, but he doesn't. He sort of stays where he is, and it means that he can't really get a shot off first time. He then has to do a cutback to Enzo Fernandez, and he drags it wide. But you can see in this example, though, if Chelsea were able to actually take their chances, the game could have panned out completely differently. Especially with this instance, the ball gets crossed into Nicholas Jackson. Gabriel actually misses the ball, and Nicholas Jackson just doesn't anticipate the actual opportunity, and he panics and he ends up handballing it. Completely wasted opportunity. And then a couple of minutes later, a moment of madness, in my opinion, a bit of frustration of how the game is panning out, and in my opinion, he should have been sent off for this challenge. It's quite a horrendous challenge, if you're being totally honest. If you freeze it frame by frame. It's right on the ankle. It's dangerous play. Simple as. He should be sent off. Still into the first half, we've got an example where Nicholas Jackson is on the ball. As you can see, Gabriel is actually playing Mudryk on the side. So if Nicholas Jackson is just simply able to pass the ball sort of in behind, I know it's quite a difficult angle, but if he's able to pass it in behind, Mudryk he's got all that space to run into. We know how much pace he's got. I'm not saying he would have scored because, you know, he hasn't got much besides pace, but it's still another opportunity for Chelsea to score. And this, I think, is the second goal. They take a quick corner, Arsenal do. But you can just see Trossard on the edge of the box, just completely free. Nobody marking him. Chelsea are so deep in their own box. No one's even anticipating the danger. As you can see here, they've got two players now, Arsenal, on the edge of the box. All that free space to attack. Bukayo Saka lays it off to one of them. And then in this picture, you can actually see that Ben White was being marked by Cucurella. But Cucurella, I don't know where he's going. He goes on a walkabout. He leaves Ben White completely free. And then Thomas Partey, I don't know if it hits Thomas Partey or Gallagher, but he just deflects straight to Ben White. And he's able just to tap in to make it 2-0. This goal, honestly, is a thing of beauty, to be honest. We'll look at previously what actually happened in the build-up, but Martin Odegaard, what a ball that is. Pinpoint, right in behind. He curves it around the actual back line. And then Kai Havertz actually makes a perfectly timed run in behind. And then he completely just bodies off Cucurella and just smashes it into the roof of the net. And I'm sure he would have loved that goal. But if we actually look into the build-up, I'd personally say it was probably a foul on Madueke from Gabriel. Gabriel loses the ball and essentially just sort of stumbles all over Madueke. He doesn't get the ball, so I think that's pretty much a foul every day of the week. But realistically, didn't change that much in terms of the actual outcome of the game. Here we've got Nicholas Jackson doing what he does best, getting in behind, creating chances. But what does he do? He also does what he usually does and doesn't put the ball in the back of the net. He's got all that left-hand side of the goal to aim at, and he ends up hitting it on the right-hand side into the side netting. But if you look at Chelsea's chances that they created, they could at least scored a couple of goals in this game and made it more interesting. In this situation, you've got Bukayo Saka cutting inside for... he actually passes it into the feet of Kai Havertz. In my opinion, Enzo Fernandez should anticipate the danger, and essentially you can see the danger in front of him. You can see that Havertz is essentially cutting inside on his own, but he's quite a lazy player in my opinion, and in terms of the price that they paid, he's not shown enough defensively. He should anticipate the danger and at least try and get a foot in onto Kai Havertz, but he doesn't. Kai Havertz is able to shift the ball off inside onto his left foot, and in my opinion, Nassi should at least close him down a lot quicker and stop him from getting a shot off, but he doesn't. And he's able to hit it into the near post, and it goes in off the post and in. So yeah, Kai Havertz, a double against his former side. And then this goal was the nail in the coffin, in my opinion. Look at the actual defenders from Chelsea. Like, they're all ball watching, they're all together. They're not actually looking in behind. They've left all that space in behind for Ben White to run into. He's timed his run to perfection. Martin Odegaard obviously finds him because his passing ability is superb on his left foot. Gets the ball over the top, and then Ben White tries to cross the ball, but he ends up trying to cross it, but he mistimes it. He ends up looping the goalkeeper to make it 5-0. And then just to finish off the big moments of this game, Martinelli came on as a substitute. Obviously, with his pace on the counter-attack. And with Chelsea, for some reason, still leaving spaces in behind when they're 5-0 up. He was able to get in behind, but he wasn't able to actually make it 6-0. But yeah, what a game. What an insane amount of talking points. But yeah, well, that was an interesting game. I was not anticipating a complete drubbing like that. I mean, obviously, Arsenal are fighting for the title and Chelsea in mid-table, but I was not expecting a complete whitewash of a performance. In terms of a synopsis of the game, I've got a few notes. I've put that Arsenal were extremely aggressive in their press. They were first at every ball. They essentially just swarmed Chelsea on the ball whenever they got it. Even towards the last stage of the game, they were all over them. They weren't content with 5-0. I thought Havertz against his former team, his link-up play was superb. A complete redemption arc. I thought Odegaard was man of the match. He got into pockets of space. He was dictating play. He was just unbelievable. He's unplayable, quite simply. I thought Nicholas Jackson was a threat on the counter-attack, but his end product just simply wasn't there. I thought Cucurella and Mudryk were extremely vulnerable vulnerable defensively. I mean, Cucurella is a wing-back in my opinion, and Mudryk is a winger. So when you pair them together, it's just a catastrophe on the left-hand side defensively, especially when you're away against a team fighting for the title. Obviously, that Gilchrist, it's his first start for Chelsea. He's obviously going to be a bit nervous, and I thought that Arsenal completely exploited that with a very seasoned veteran in Trossard completely running at him all the time. I thought you could tell evidently that Chelsea really missed Palmer's creativity. I thought the only way they created chances were on the counter-attack. So without him, without that actual spark to create something out of nothing, I thought Thomas Partey had one of his best games of the season. He completely bossed that midfield defensively, and it allowed the likes of Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard to actually advance forward and play more forward, if that makes sense. And then finally, I just thought Chelsea were just completely way too easy to play through. And it was an easy game for Arsenal in the end, wasn't it? But I just want to say thank you to everyone that's tuned into this video, especially the new subscribers that have tuned in from the previous video. That video has got a lot of views compared to the actual size of the channel. So I do appreciate everyone watching that video and liking it. But yeah, don't forget to comment your man of the match and just let me know your opinions on the game. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell notification so you never miss an upload. Please like the video so it spreads the video to a wider audience. And I will see you guys next time. Peace.